NBC Sports presents the Major League Baseball Game of the Week. Today from Wrigley Field, it's the San Francisco Giants versus the Chicago Cubs. The Game of the Week is brought to you by the Miller Brewing Company, brewers of Miller High Life. If you've got the time, we've got the beer. By Ford and your Ford dealer, who invite you to test drive the 1982 Ford cars and trucks. By Gillette, makers of Atra and Just Whistle razors. Gillette's best shave for both of you. And by Avis, trying harder. It's still the best way to do business. Chicago, it's got to be your kind of town if you're a baseball fan on a beautiful Saturday afternoon and you're filing into Wrigley Field. Hello, everybody. I'm Bob
Cocker, and this is the starting lineup for the San Francisco Giants. Leading off, and the reason I'm not playing is this guy right here, Joe Morgan. Batting second and playing extremely well is Jimmy Wolford. Hitting third and possibly could be the Rookie of the Year, Chili Davis. Batting fourth, an acquisition from the Dodgers, a good veteran player, Reggie Smith. Batting fifth and playing right field and starting to swing the bat real well, Jack Clark. Batting sixth, another veteran player, and catching, Milt May. Batting seventh, and we think he's just another great rookie, Tommy O'Malley. Batting eighth and playing shortstop, Johnny LeMaster, and pitching and batting ninth, Rich Gale.
Thanks, Dwayne Kuiper. Bob Costas along with Jay Randolph at beautiful Wrigley Field in Chicago. Joe Morgan prepares to step in against Doug Bird, who is 3-5 on the year. His ERA at 4.28. Trying for the third time to win his fourth game of the season. You looked at little Joe's 1982 numbers, and he takes strike one. Bob Engel is the home plate umpire. Jerry Dale at first. Paul Runge at second. Eric Gregg will call the plays at third. 0-1 pitch. Slapped through the hole. Nice piece of hitting by Joe Morgan, and he's on. He began the season hitting in the number 2 spot with the rookie Chili Davis as the leadoff man. But Morgan's penchant for drawing walks and Davis's increased RBI production caused Frank Robinson to put Davis in the number 3 spot and Morgan in the leadoff spot.
There's Doug Bird, and it's his 12th start of the 82 season. And Bob, as you mentioned, his third crack at trying to win number 4. The wind is blowing in today, and every pitcher will tell you he likes to see those flags headed his way when he stands on that mound out there.
Left fielder Jim Wolford squares to bunt and takes a strike. Wolford was being platooned until he went 4 for 4 against Randy Jones of the Mets in the second game of a doubleheader a while back, then took off on a 12-game hitting streak. You see his average at .330. So he's won himself a regular job. Former Royal and Brewer. Doug Bird on the mound, also a former Kansas City pitcher, was very successful out of the bullpen for Whitey Herzog in the mid-70s there. Wolford sends a shot up the middle. That'll drop in front of Gary Woods for a base hit. So consecutive singles off Doug Bird, and the Giants have something going in the first inning. Cubs have lost 5 games in a row. There's their manager, Lee Elia. And in addition to the 5 straight losses, Frank Robinson of the Giants, they also played an exhibition game against their Iowa Farm Club and lost that 7-2. Afterwards, as the Cubs were walking off the field, one of the Iowa fans shouted, "Please, don't send anybody down." Center fielder Chili Davis. Bunts foul.
Davis is from Kingston, Jamaica. Has good power. He's a low ball hitter, batting at .260. Third base coach there is Jim Davenport.
Davis took Ferguson Jenkins over the right field wall for a 2-run homer in the first inning yesterday. Giants held on to win the ball game 4-3. Again wants to bunt, and again it's foul. This is something which has really nettled Frank Robinson this season, the inability of his Giants to make the fundamental play. He says they're not taking enough pitches, they're not taking the extra base, they're not getting the sacrifice accomplished when they're called upon to do it. welcome to those of you who have been hoping to watch the Mariners and the Tigers. As you know, it's raining in Detroit. Here at Wrigley Field, first and second, nobody out for the Giants, and Chili Davis fouls one off. The count remains 0-2. This is Bob Costas with Jay Randolph. The game began with Joe Morgan slapping a single to left. Jim Wolford followed with a line shot up the middle. Runners at first and second, nobody out. Davis hitting .362 this year with runners in scoring position. Hits this one into the gap in left center. However, it's run down out there by Jay Johnstone.
Again, we'll mention, for those of you just joining us, here at Wrigley Field, the wind is blowing in, and that ball hit in the gap, hung up, and Johnstone, playing in left field, had no trouble really getting over to make the play.
There you see the flags, and they arrange those flags to correspond to the National League standings out atop the scoreboard in center field at Wrigley. That ball, as it left the bat, looked like it was destined for extra bases. Last night at Wrigley, how could it happen last night? Yesterday afternoon, Gary Woods made a bid for a game-winning homer in the ninth for the Cubs. Would have been out on your average day. Didn't even make the track with the wind blowing in. Just Reggie Smith. Just come back from an Achilles tendon injury, which sidelined him, had him on the disabled list. Reggie began the season like a house on fire, had 4 early season home runs.
Still has excellent power from both sides, of course. Swings all out, very aggressive.
He's ahead on the count against Doug Bird, 2-0. Deck hitter is Jack Clark. Change up, and he's behind 3-0. He doesn't want to load the bases for Clark, who's been red hot.
Now he has to come in with the fastball, and Reggie knows it.
Frank Robinson, though, would probably have him taking in this situation. 3-0. Well, I guess wrong. He swings away, and now Robbie wishes the take sign was on. Easy play for Gary Woods. 2 out.
Bird's about to pitch himself out of a real jam here in the early going. As Morgan and Wolford open with singles, he's gotten Davis and Smith to fly out. But here is a man who has really been playing up a storm, Bob Costas, Jack Clark.
His average at just .224, but it was beneath 200 before he went on a tear last week. Was named the Sports Illustrated Player of the Week after consecutive games at Pittsburgh, where he hit 4 home runs, 2 in each game, drove in 5 runs in the first game, 6 in the second. One of the homers was a grand slam, 11 ribbies in 2 games.
He's a tough out. They throw him breaking balls. Excellent RBI man.
Strike 1 call. A couple of weeks ago, and again we remind you, the rain delay in Detroit. We'll check back if anything happens there. Meanwhile, the whole country watches the Cubs host the Giants. A couple of weeks ago, Clark was very critical of Giant management, saying it was a losing organization. Owner Bob Lurie said, "Hey, Jack, take a look at your own batting average. Look in the mirror." Clark's answer to that was to go on last week's rampage.
Last August, he had a slugging average of .649, and he had some problems with management last year.
Hit .315 for the season in 1981. The on-deck hitter is the rookie third baseman Tom O'Malley. Bird missing high and away. 1-2 is the count.
Clark holds the Giants' all-time hitting streak mark, 26 games back in 1978.
On the corner for a call, strike 3. So Bird is touched for singles by Morgan and Wolford to start the inning. Then he gets out of...
Welcome to beautiful Wrigley Field in downtown Chicago, home of the Chicago Cubs in a wonderful state of Illinois. Leading off for us today is a little guy with a famous father, Bump Wills, at second place. Second place, you like that? It's actually second base, but we'll go on from that. And playing third base is Ryan Sandberg, a rookie, but got a chance to be a good guy. Hitting third, playing first base, Bill Buckner. Hitting fourth, the Bull. Playing in right field, a strong guy, that's why they call him the Bull, Leon Durham. Playing catcher, a tough position. A guy came over from the Phillies, a great hitter, Keith Moreland. Playing left field, a guy that hasn't been out there before, new in a Chicago Cubs uniform, me, Jay Johnstone. Playing center field, another young guy, Gary Woods, got a chance to be a pretty good hitter. Playing shortstop, a rat of a guy, a funny guy, an instigator, the rat, my friend, Larry Boa. And pitching today, for us, the guy that's going to win, Doug Bird. So stay tuned, and back to you guys upstairs.
All right, there is Rich Gale as Jay Johnstone presented the lineup for us today. And we're going to, if you're scoring with us, incidentally, let's update for you. It's Wills leading off. Boa now batting in the number 2 spot. Then Buckner, Durham, Moreland, Johnstone, Gary Woods. Junior Kennedy is now at third base. Kennedy, a late replacement there, and Bird to do the pitching.
Yeah, Ryan Sandberg's back tightened up on him just before game time, so Kennedy to third, and an adjustment in the order with Boa, who had 2 hits yesterday, moving up to the number 2 spot. Bump Wills, Maury's boy, lines a single to left. Wills is on, and he's a threat to steal. He's swiped 12 already this year.
Let's make a change for you, too, in the San Francisco lineup, a late change. O'Malley was moved up to the number 6 spot. Brenly now doing the catching as we look at Bump Wills. Stayed with that ball, went the other way, and has a leadoff single.
Larry Boa with his average at just 189. Likely sacrifice situation as Wills leads away and Gale chases him back. Gale hasn't won a game since the second week of the season. He's on a 4-game losing streak, and his ERA is nearly 5 runs a game. Giants made several changes with their pitching staff this year. Gone are Ed Whitson, Vida Blue, Alan Ripley, and Doyle Alexander. A lot of youngsters in their starting rotation, including this guy, Rich Gale. Boa did not square. Takes outside, 1-0.
Boa really knows the strike zone. He's a veteran player, slap hitter, doesn't have a great deal of power. Looking down at his coach, Gordy McKenzie, third.
It's one of the all-time understatements, Jay, that he doesn't have a lot of power. I don't know any player who has played more shallow by an outfield than is Boa. They're practically breathing down the infielders' backs, especially in left and in center.
He had a couple of hits yesterday, as we mentioned at the top of the broadcast, and he can sting you. He has the ability to bunt. And, he's much more effective, of course, on this natural surface here.
Buckner is the on-deck hitter. Wills had a stolen base in the 9th inning yesterday. They left him as the potential tying run stranded at second. Again, Boa showing no intention to bunt. He takes ball 2, so Wills at first base may have broken the concentration of Rich Gale. He misses with his first 2. Reggie Smith holding him on. Reggie's arm after the shoulder problems all but gone, and a guy who was once an excellent right fielder confined to duty at first base. Wills is going, and Boa fouls it off. Back for a look is Brenly, but it's out of play. There's not a great deal of foul territory here at Wrigley Field, and over the course of a full season, that'll add 5-10 points to your batting average just by giving you an extra swing on a ball that might be playable in another part.
Brenly doing the catching today. He is an outstanding defensive catcher with a good arm, Bob.
Well, you saw this Cubs slugging percentage. Some guys wouldn't accept that as a batting average. Stan the man, Ted Williams.
Gale is attempting to shake a 4-game losing streak and get his second win of the season this afternoon.
Wills back. It's a 2-1 pitch upcoming.
Bump like his father, can run like the devil.
Walks a go. Boa checks the swing, and now the count is even at 2-2. Bob Brenly, back of the plate, has thrown out 3 of 10 potential base stealers this year, but that figure's a little misleading. They think ultimately he'll be better than that. He used to be an infielder, Brenly did, and he credits that with giving him a quick release. He's able to get rid of the ball on a steal attempt very quickly. Two pitch. With Wills going, the ball is hit high in the air to left field. Wolford is over and in foul ground. He has room and makes the catch for the first out. Welcome welcome to those of you watching in Chicago and in San Francisco. Unfortunately, we cannot bring you this entire game because of the broadcast arrangement with Major League Baseball. Since the Giants and Cubs are involved in this ball game, it's blacked out in those respective cities. This is Bob Costas with Jay Randolph. What we can do here for you is give you a report on what's going on. It's raining in Detroit, where the Mariners and Tigers are still hopeful of playing. It hasn't been postponed yet. They're waiting for it to stop. Here we're in the bottom half of the first inning. Bump Wills, who opened with a single, is at first with one out. The batter is Bill Buckner. The Giants threatened with singles by Morgan and Wolford to lead off the top half of the inning, but they left them stranded. Rich Gale's pitch to Billy Buck is high for ball one.
Buckner's had his battles with his manager, and apparently all of the battles now are behind them. There is peace in the valley here at Wrigley Field, I'm told.
Look at that total in doubles. If I were to pick two statistical categories which are greatly overlooked offensively, this ties in with having the statistical wizard Bill James on the pregame show, it would be doubles and walks. Take a look at that on-base percentage. It's more often than not more important than batting average.
Bob, that was a real key to Whitey Herzog's deal, sending Templeton to the Padres and picking up Ozzie Smith. Templeton, a first ball hitter, struck out a lot, didn't reach base a lot, and Herzog felt from the moment he made the deal that Smith would get a lot of walks and be able to be on base more often than Templeton.
If not more often, then closer to Templeton's total than a look at their batting averages would indicate. Tempe got on base, but he got there almost exclusively with hits, and there are other ways to reach.
Indeed.
All right, Gale is now behind Buckner 2-0 and remains concerned with Wills, who is yet to go anywhere. Buckner's average at 269, a couple of homers, 22 RBIs. Someplace soon somebody's going to pay for that 269. He's not going to stay there all season. That's a strike. Or remember the days when Billy Buck could really fly, stole 31 bases one year with the Dodgers before an ankle injury, took that aspect of his game away. This is curious. Buckner's at 313 on the road, only 216 at Wrigley, which has been a good park for him in past seasons. Buckner hit 311 last year. He's topped 300 6 times in his career, and his 324 was good for the batting title in 1980. And a strike, and if Lee Elia has any intention of sending Bump Wills during Buckner's at-bat, I would guess that this or a 3-2 pitch, if we got that far, would be the time. There goes Wills. Pitch outside. Brenly's throw. Stolen base into center field. He'll be at third with only one out.
Not a good throw. The play not handled well at second. Wills was sent, as you mentioned, Bob. It was a good pitch for him to go. Gets a nice break. And I don't think an outstanding throw would have gotten him. This one bounced in there. It went right over the shoulder of Johnny LeMaster. And Bump is at third. Another view of it. A look at Brenly and his release. And the throw, as you saw, came up short.
Giant infield plays back now. They'll concede the run in exchange for an out. 3-1 pitch to Buckner with Durham on deck. Full count. You know, the pitching book on Billy Buckner, off-speed stuff, pitch him away. Now when you're in Rich Gale's position, you got a problem. You're thinking about Bump Wills, who might steal. You also want to get Buckner out. In that instance, they went with a breaking ball away, which was a good pitch for Wills to run on. So in trying to work on the hitter, he played into the runner's hands.
Indeed he did.
Cubs have had a lot of problems this year getting the guy home from third with less than 2 out. That's something you want to accomplish consistently if you want to win. This will get it done. Smith will play it. Buckner is out unassisted. Wills crosses the plate. The Cubbies lead it 1-0. And for those of you in San Francisco and Chicago, regrettably, we say goodbye. The rest of you, stay right here.
Here at Wrigley Field, the the Cubs break on top as Buckner did the job and got Wills home from third.
Here's Bull Durham, one of the keys in the acquisition of Bruce Sutter from the Cubs a year ago by the Cardinals. Well, what a prospect this youngster is, especially playing here at Wrigley Field, where the dimensions should be very friendly to him through the years.
He has an opportunity really to be one of the great stars in this game. Young, talented, has great speed, a fine arm, hits for good average, loves to play this game.
Likeable youngster, isn't he, Jay?
Yes, he is. Very articulate. Leon Durham.
The Cubs beat the Dodgers 2 in a row last Friday and Saturday, then ran into Fernando Valenzuela, who blanked them 7-0 on Sunday, and they've been on the schneid ever since, losing 5 in a row. 2 balls and a strike to Leon.
Valenzuela pitches tonight in St. Louis, where they're expecting very close to a sellout to see him. He really draws the fans wherever he goes.
Does he ever? Evidently that nicked the bat, and the count is even at 2-2. You know, they wondered, what would the holdout do, the shortened spring training? Regardless of how you feel about Valenzuela's position as a holdout, whether it was right or wrong, it hasn't affected him too much. He's among the league leaders in strikeouts, wins, innings pitched. This one is ripped, and it might get in the gap. It will go to the ivy. And Durham is looking for 3, and here he goes. He wants a triple, and he'll have it.
You saw the ability of this very talented young man there. He ripped it into the power alley at the 368 mark. It went all the way to the ivy, the pitch right down central, and he just went with it.
That's the kind of ball that will carry on a day like this. If you get it way up in the air, the wind's going to take it. The line drive will go. As you saw, Clark had a little bit of trouble at the base of the wall. They've trimmed the ivy here this year. It's not quite as lush as it once was.
You could lose a ball out there.
Oh, it has happened.
Oh, yeah.
It's happened that balls have bounced up or even on the fly been caught in the ivy. That guy's coming out with the trimmer trying to find a baseball while the hitter's rounding the bases. Here's Keith Moreland.
Durham's second triple of the season.
Cubs lead at 1-0 and looking for more. Moreland is at 309 with 9 homers and 39 RBIs. Came over from the Phillies. They thought he'd be their regular catcher. While he was having a great year hitting, opposing base runners were taking all kinds of liberties on his throwing arm. So they moved into the outfield and inserted Jody Davis back at the plate. That's the way it's been most of the time for the past several weeks. But today, Davis gets the day off, and Moreland starts the game behind the plate. Most of the time, however, for the rest of the year, Moreland's going to be in the outfield.
The book on this fella is that he has power plus. You like to keep the ball away from him naturally. You don't want to make a mistake to him. I think they've realized that he's got to play the outfield some. They like to have his bat in the lineup. He is not really a number 1 catcher day in and day out. Good pitch there.
2 balls and a strike with 2 outs. The inning began with a Bunk Wills single. He stole second base after Larry Boa popped out, and the throw from Brenly went into center field. And then Wills trotted home on a Buckner ground out. Leon Durham followed with a triple. Now the count 3-1 to Moreland. We saw a moment ago where Moreland ranks among the RBI leaders in the National League.
39 RBI. Very good stat this morning. 1982 season.
Only Dale Murphy of Atlanta has more. He's got 42. Murphy also leads the National League in homers with 15. The 3-1 pitch, and now the count full. Jay, the Cubs came into today's game at 21-31. Familiar last place in the National League East. 12 games back of the Cardinals. The Giants are just a half game removed from the basement in the West. The Reds are holding them up at the moment. Giants 23-30 for the season. 8 back of Atlanta. Payoff to Moreland. Let's see if Reggie Smith will have a play. Ball is drifting toward the stands, but it stays in, and Reggie makes the catch to retire the side.
Look out. You practice your rope tricks. Willie Hernandez there trying to lasso somebody. There's the American League scores from last night. Jim Beattie, a 2-hitter in Seattle's victory. McRae, an inside-the-park home run in that one. Cleveland won again, 11 in a row. Minnesota 6-0 over Baltimore.
Hallelujah for the Twins. The losing streak stops at
That's
14.
right, 14.
Brad Havens a shutout.
Yeah, he had a little help from Terry Felton, but they had a 6-hitter in that Texas-Chicago action. Chicago now has lost 7 in a row. 7 in a row for the White Sox, 5 in a row in the loss column for these Cubs. Boston beat California 11-4, 3-run homer by Carney Lansford in a 7-run 11th inning, and of course Milwaukee over Oakland. Gorman Thomas had 4 RBIs in that game.
Rookie third baseman Tom O'Malley sends one into the gap in left center. Can Johnstone run this one down? He cannot. It'll go to the wall. Extra bases for O'Malley. He'll settle for 2. Jay, we saw this youngster make his major league debut several weeks ago at Shea Stadium. Flew all night on the red eye from Phoenix. Got himself a base hit. Made several good plays in the field. The next day he hit a homer against the Mets. And the presence of O'Malley has put Darrell Evans on the trading block. And there's been some thought that the Cubs might like to acquire Evans to play third, take advantage of the long ball bat at Wrigley, and then move Ryan Sandberg to the outfield, and ultimately Sandberg becomes the shortstop when Boa retires. Bob Brenly does exactly what he did not want to do. On the very first pitch, he hits the ball to Boa at short. The runner can't advance, and that's the first out of the inning.
We were very impressed with O'Malley when we saw him for the first time, Bobby. His last hit in the minors was a triple in Phoenix, and as soon as he came in after that triple, they said, "Get ready, you're going." And he's really done very well. He's a good-looking young prospect.
Johnny LeMaster fouls it off. Yeah, O'Malley had a 22-game hitting streak earlier this season down in Phoenix. So maybe Evans' days at Candlestick are numbered. LeMaster, a notorious weak hitter, but usually a solid defensive shortstop. Hits it to his opposite number, Boa, and Larry guns him out. Well, Bill James, the author of the Baseball Abstract, told Byron Day on the pregame show that Boa is an overrated defensive shortstop. He says, sure, he's got the high fielding percentage, but he doesn't get to as many balls as an Ozzie Smith or a Gary Templeton. That may be true, but what Boa does get to, he gobbles up.
I asked Boa about that. He said, "Who's Bill James?" So I don't suppose it really makes too much difference one way or the other.
Interesting way to look at it.
That's
even
right.
even if he doesn't know who James is,
That's
the
right.
figures remain the same, do they not?
They do. The figures do not lie, right?
All right, here's Rich Gale. He's big enough to be a hitter if he catches a hold of one, but his average is beneath 100. Still raining in Detroit. We'll keep you posted if they start to take the tarp off and there's a chance for the Mariners and Tigers to play. Gale with a swing that they won't show at any clinics. A ball and a strike.
He does have 1 RBI this year, though.
I think he got that when he was hit by a pitch with the bases loaded, Jay. Only way it could have happened. O'Malley, who led the inning with a double, is at second. That's a called strike 2. Doug Bird had a combined record of 9 and 6 last year. But he was 5-0 when he came over here from the Yankees. Wait a minute! Eat your words, Costas. This is headed for the wall. It's out of here.
One swing does not a pitcher make. How about that? Rich Gale has put San Francisco on top. The big guy pounded one out over the 370 mark into the sunshine.
How do you do? Rich Gale, dialing 8, as they say, because you want long distance in your hotel room, you pick up the phone and you dial 8, and that's what he did right then. Went long distance into the bleachers and left. Well, I said he was big enough if he got a hold of one, right?
You did indeed.
The Giants lead it 2-1, and here's Joe Morgan. This is not the way this inning was supposed to work. O'Malley led with a double. Brenly was supposed to advance him and didn't. LeMaster couldn't get a hit. So Gale said, heck, my teammates aren't giving me any help. I better take matters into my own hands.
You've just seen his first major league home run. You're sitting in on a little history here this afternoon at Wrigley Field.
Morgan singled his first time up. As we pointed out, the wind is blowing in. That ball might have made it all the way out onto Waveland Avenue if the wind had been blowing out.
He really tagged it.
Morgan rips one foul in the bid for extra bases. Leon Durham tossing it back in. Morgan, of course, in his halcyon days with the Reds, used to hit in the number 3 spot because despite his diminutive size, he had great power to go with the high batting averages and all the walks. Now at this stage of his career, although he can poke the occasional long ball, better suited to the leadoff spot.
Bob, you remember how he used to pump that back arm time and time again. Now he doesn't do it but maybe once or twice, and not nearly as aggressively as he once did. He's changed his batting style just a little bit.
The count is full at 3-2, and an inning and 2/3. Bird has yielded 4 hits to the Giants. First inning singles by Morgan and Wolford. Pair of extra base hits here in the second. Double by O'Malley and a homer by Gale. There's a walk to Joe Morgan.
There's the home run hitter.
I remember a few weeks ago we were in Pittsburgh and Rick Roden put on a hitting exhibition. Had a double and a home run. Actually hit better than he pitched as the Pirates won the game 12-9. All right, here's Wolford with 2 outs and Morgan at first. Joe, even at 38, is a threat to run, but Wolford fouls it off.
Later on in this game, Bob, you and I will have an opportunity to pitch your most valuable player. If we had to choose right now, it might be Rich Gale. They've got a lot of playing to do here at Wrigley Field this afternoon. I hope you're enjoying it wherever you are around the country.
Wolford lines it foul. Cracked his bat on it. Bird is ahead 0-2. Not many second basemen of the modern era would compare with Joe Morgan. Here's an example of why you have to stay awake in the bullpen here at Wrigley Field. It's a lot closer than at most places, and it's exposed, so if you decide to catch some rays and take a nap, you might get one off your schnoz.
Be alert in this ballpark.
How about that fellow who caught the line drive by Pete Rose this week right off his kisser? Did you see that guy?
I saw the picture in the paper yesterday.
Ooh.
Wow, did he take a shot, but he had an autographed ball from Pete Rose, and he seemed pleased with the whole situation. I guess if you're going to get hit, you might as well get hit by a future Hall of Famer.
It'd be awful to have your face rearranged like that by Chico Carrascal or somebody.
Or your friend Mendoza.
Oh, Mario Mendoza, right. Morgan back ahead of the tag from Buckner.
You mentioned Bob Engel is calling the balls and strikes today. Jerry Dale is at first, and Paul Runge at second, and Eric Gregg at third.
Runner going, and Wolford lines it down the line and foul. So Wolford's had some good rips at Bird here.
There's a big sign on a house down the left field line and a couple others out on the right side about Support Day Baseball, no lights. It's, of course, the last bastion of day baseball, this great park here on the near north side.
Now that the Wrigley family is sold out to the Chicago Tribune Company and Dallas Green has come in, there's some concern on the part of the traditionalists that lights cannot be far behind Dallas Green's slogan, building a new tradition at Wrigley Field, and they figure that ultimately they'll turn on the lights here. Morgan not going. Wolford driving one to right. Leon Durham retreating to the edge of the track. And he almost missed. Might look at this stat and say, hey, look, why turn the lights on? The Cubs play better in the day than they do at night. But that's misleading. In truth, Dallas Green feels that when they go on the road, they're playing in a foreign environment playing at night, as Johnstone misses the bunt and takes a strike. And so he wants to get serious. He wants to feel like they can sell a winning ball club here sometime in the future. Not just beautiful Wrigley Field, which in fact is beautiful. Not just the idea of the Cubs as lovable losers. 0-1 pitch to Johnstone is high, 1-1. So the thinking is that if you play at least a few night games, mix it up sometime in the future. Maybe not next year or the year after. It's not the top priority, but maybe sometime. If you have lights at Wrigley Field, you have a chance to compete better when you go on the road. Ooh, Johnstone lines it right at O'Malley for the first out. Let's pause briefly for station identification. This is the NBC television network.
NBC for Southern Nevada, KVBC, TV3, Las Vegas.
Bob Costas along with Jay Randolph at Wrigley Field, and you saw O'Malley, who could not have made that play had the ball been a foot to either side probably, since it was hit so sharply, but it came right at him, and the youngster grabbed it for the first out.
Bob, to go a little farther with the day baseball, the Giants don't mind. They're 13-9 playing day games this year, in contrast to 10-21 under the lights.
Gary Woods in center field today takes strike one from Rich Gale. A few years ago, when Gale was with Kansas City, had a knockdown drag out with his manager, Jim Fry. Fry called him in the office, said to his son, "You're a thrower, a lot of ability. You are not a pitcher yet." Gale did not appreciate that, but I think that most knowledgeable baseball people would have agreed with Fry's assessment. Gale with an awful lot of talent, but he has not refined it to the point where he's truly a polished pitcher. A ball and 2 strikes to Woods.
Woods has had a good year at the plate. Some people wondering why he hasn't really played a good deal more.
Stay alive with that swing. Woods made a bid to be a hero in the 9th yesterday, but the wind held his home run try up, died on the track. Junior Kennedy is on deck. Then the pitcher, Doug Bird. If they get that far in this inning. Took a little bit off, but Woods swings and misses for strike 3.
First strikeout for Rich Gale. Inserted into the lineup as a last-minute replacement down at third base for Ryne Sandberg.
Kennedy, for a short period of time, succeeded Joe Morgan at second base with Cincinnati, but ultimately Ron Oster came on to take that job. The base is clear with 2 down. 2 balls and no strikes, the count to Kennedy. It is not a good idea to get cute with him here, thinking that you've got Bird on deck. Better to work to him and then have the pitcher to lead off the next inning.
Exactly. You don't want to walk this fella. He's an adequate utility man. He'll battle you up at the plate.
Strike 2 and 1. The difference I see, Jay, between this year's Cub ball club, which admittedly is in the cellar, and Cub teams of the past, as Kennedy fouls it off, at least most Cub teams of the recent past that did have contenders in the late 60s and early 70s, is you look at this team and you see a Ryne Sandberg, not in the lineup today, but he is most of the time, a Leon Durham, a Keith Moreland, and you've got some youngsters who'll be able to play. You've also got a guy like a Buckner, and perhaps some others that you could possibly trade if you wanted to and get a lot of value. You got a chance at least to build a ball club. Kennedy sends it up the middle, but LeMaster ranges left. Yeah. We told you Giants beat the Cubs. Hey, Tom Seaver won his second. Glad to see that as Cincinnati topped the Mets. Houston over the Phillies, Ray Knight with 5 RBIs in that game. Career victory number 100 for Bob Bush. Cardinals topped L.A. San Diego, hey, you can't say they're a fluke at this point. They keep on rolling. 5-4 over the Pirates. Expos Braves, rained out. Chili Davis with a bouncer to second, and Buck Wills retires him for the first out of the 3rd inning. The standings now, National League. Cardinals by 5.5 over Montreal, the Phillies, and the Mets. A 3-way tie for second in the National League East. In the West, Atlanta by a game over San Diego, 5.5 on the Dodgers. American League East, Detroit by half a game over Boston, 5 over Cleveland. The Tribe has won 11 in a row. Milwaukee and the Yankees 6 back. In the West, California by 1.5 over both Chicago and Kansas City. 1-1 to Reggie Smith. base hit. A one-out single for Smith. One time in his career, Smith had tremendous speed. Age and the recent Achilles tendon injury have slowed him up. Interestingly enough, Reggie said about a week ago that if he had known that he would have had trouble with his Achilles tendon, in addition to battling back from the shoulder problems this year, that he probably would have thought about retirement even more seriously. This despite the fact that he's done well when he's been in there for the Giants. Jack Clark fouls it off.
A lot of people around the National League that would like to have Jack Clark on their roster, I'll tell you that.
He is your basic streak hitter. Either he's on fire or he is ice cold. Seems to be no in between with him. He'll go into some horrendous slumps. He was 4 for 39 before he went on his home run binge last week. So there's your illustration. Ball and a strike. Jim Davenport with the signs.
This fellow hit .315 and had 11 homers in the second half of last season.
Smith will lead it first. There's the pitch out and nothing doing. I'm not so sure about that. Now you put him in an even more favorable situation with regard to the count if they want to run Smith or if they want to play some hit and run.
4 years ago, Smith might have been running.
Here, it's outside, 3-1. Somewhere in all those motions is the sign for Jack Clark. My guess is it's just take a good rip, big boy, and see what you can get done. Or take ball 4 if it's not good enough. First and second with 1 out.
That's the second walk given up by Doug Bird. Earlier he had passed Joe Morgan.
Now here's Tom O'Malley, who doubled to lead off the second and scored ahead of the surprising home run by Rich Gale. First career homer for Gale. Wiped out a 1-0 Cub lead. Made it 2-1 Giants, which is where we stand now. Foul ball, strike 1. Looking around the Cub outfield, just in case there's a base hit and potential play at the plate. Woods and Durham both have excellent guns in center and right. John Stone, a left field arm. I guess that's why he's there, huh, Jay?
I think so.
0-2.
O'Malley was at Shreveport last season, and he hit .289 there. Brought him up, as we mentioned, from Phoenix. Bob and I did have the pleasure of watching him play his first Major League game in Shea Stadium and played it very well.
Good power to the opposite field, this kid. His double to left center in the second inning. Demonstrated that. Saw him hit an opposite field homer against the Mets at Shea a while back. Ooh, that was just off the corner, 1-2.
He's from Orange, New Jersey. It's Tom O'Malley.
His Major League debut in New York against the Mets. Had all kinds of friends and relatives rushing over from nearby New Jersey to watch him. 2-2 pitch with 1 out and 2 on. Count holds. Jay, I tell you, you and I find it tough to even do a broadcast when we get off the red eye. This guy went out and played his first Major League ball game and was a star.
Well, he may not be much younger than you, but he's a good deal younger than I am.
Point well taken, Jay Bird. 2-2 delivery again. Up the middle. Wills. Can he turn it into 2? Yes!
Here it is, the old wholesaler, the double play, 4-6-3.
2-1 after 2.5. Scenic Wrigley Field, where the Giants lead the Cubs 2-1, bottom of the third. Let's go to Joe and Tony in Detroit.
Well, here in Detroit, that picture pretty well tells the story. The fans waiting patiently. The rain continues. The infield is still covered, and the pitchers are still scheduled to be Petrie for Detroit, Gaylord Perry for the Seattle Mariners. but it looks like it's going to be a while before this game gets going. So we've got a delay here in Detroit, and Tony Kubek is waiting. I'm waiting, but Bob Costas is also waiting in Chicago. They've got a pretty good ball game back in Wrigley Field. Let's go to Chicago.
Thanks, Joe G. The pitcher, Doug Bird, leads off in the Cubs half of the third inning. The count to him is 1-1. 1-2. Now, that was not a good-looking cut, but the last time I made that comment about a pitcher hitting, it was when Rich Gale was at the plate, and he smacked the next one about 400 feet. So I have nothing bad to say about the batting exploits of Doug Bird. Although now I'll point out that he's spent most of his career in the American League, where they had the designated hitter, so he's just now getting the hang of standing up there.
Second strikeout for Rich Gale. Bob, I know you and I want to send along our congratulations to Tony Kubek watching the rain in Detroit, but the other day in Detroit, Tony was enshrined into the Polish Hall of Fame in Detroit, Michigan. Congratulations to old TK.
Bump Wills at the plate. He singled and scored his last time up. Offs the bunt and takes a ball. Bump is a leadoff man, just like his dad Maury was. Earlier today, we talked to him about that role.
I think so. I enjoy this ballpark. I think I'm going to offensively produce very well here. Working with Larry Boa defensively and Bill Buckner at first, I think we have a fine infield. Ryan Sandberg has, in my opinion, one of the best glove men in the National League. He certainly has impressed me at that position.
2 balls and a strike now to Bump Wills. The two guys he mentioned, Boa and Buckner, he combined with them for a brilliant inning-ending double play in the top half of the third. Hit foul, 2-2.
Again, Ryan Sandberg was scratched from the lineup just prior to the start of this game today, but they liked his job very much indeed. Bump started the season, his first time at bat for the Cubs, with a home run.
It was the first game in all the major leagues this year, wasn't it? At Cincinnati against the Reds. Full count. Question for you, Jay. What major league team, counting their entire history, has won more games than any other? Don't say the Yankees or the Cardinals or the Dodgers.
Believe it or not, huh?
Payoff pitch. Tap toward first. Tough play. Gale's got to get over. Smith had trouble getting it out of the glove, and they just nipped Bump Wills.
Should be Cincinnati.
It would not be Cincinnati. It would be the Chicago Cubs.
All right.
Watch the play again. Smith is going to have a little bit of trouble getting this out. A little hesitation there. Wills runs very well. Half a step at most. They get him.
Gale did a good job there.
Earlier this year, the Cubs won the 8,000th game in the franchise's history. The trouble is they've lost a few, too. Tapping it off his foot, and a foul ball, or is it?
They're going to ask now the other umpires. Here comes Lee Elia.
Engel wants to talk to the first base umpire, Jerry Dale, about it. The Giants are coming off the field. The look on Lee Ilia's face and the empty diamond, one would have to assume they're calling it a fair ball and an unassisted put-out for Reggie Smith. Doesn't take much to get Larry Boa going. He's a feisty guy.
Hangs that bat down and says, wait a minute. They obviously thought it was a foul ball, but it's going to be the third out of the inning, apparently.
Engel is holding the baseball, and maybe Elia said to him, hey, look, check it for shoe polish. See if he banged it off his foot or not. Very hard to tell. The dust kicking up there. It was close. The umps say no. It's a ground out. Mascot here for the Cubs at Wrigley Field, but they have these little guys that they sell.
Dolls, huh?
Play-by-play as we start the fourth inning. Here's my man, Jay Randolph. Jay?
All right, Bob, thank you. Bob Brenly leading it off. It's a 2-1 game. The Giants have the lead. Bob Engel, the man behind the plate. 1 ball and 1 strike to Brenly. Grounded out back in the second inning. He's from Coshocton, Ohio. Played at Ohio University. Doing the catching this afternoon for the Giants of Frank Robinson. The Giants started the day as a team batting .248. They've now hit 39 home runs with a homer by Rich Gale.
Usually Brenly plays only against left-handers. Milt May's shoulder giving him some trouble, so Brenly starts today against the right-hander Bird. Brenly's hitting .500, 7 of 14 against lefties, but he's only around 100 against right-handers for the season.
Doug Bird comes home with a 2-2 pitch. It's low, and the count is full.
Extreme youth in that starting rotation. You got the Laskys, the Atlee Hamakers, Rich Gale, who's working today, Alan Folks.
These are 2 very interesting and rather young clubs. Here's a shot down the line in left, and it is a fair ball. That's Johnstone taking it off the wall. A stand-up double to lead it off for Bob Brenly here in the 4th inning.
The Giants have opened 3 of their 4 frames today with base hits. And in the 1 inning they didn't, the 3rd, they got a 1-out single. So they've had guys aboard in every inning. Here's Brenly giving the lie to the idea that he can't hit right-handers. Into the corner it goes by the 355 sign. And there's something that's interesting about Wrigley Field. It's a cozy hitter's park, true. But down the lines, 355 and 353 to right, it's much longer than in the new ballparks, which are a pretty standard 330.
Johnny LeMaster grounded out in the second. Started today batting .220. Puts this one into right field. Leon Durham glasses down. Has it. And Brenly stays at second. The hero up to now for San Francisco, Rich Gale. Hit the home run. Picked up RBIs number 2 and 3. Back in the second inning. With Tom O'Malley scoring in front of him. Gale has a chance to help his cause once more. Wind blowing in. Temperature in the 60s. Not a cloud in the sky here on the near north side at Wrigley Field, Chicago.
You don't even have to be Ernie Banks to like a day like this.
Oh, indeed.
What was it that Oscar Gamble said earlier this season? George Steinbrenner pulled the Yankees out after a long road trip for an off-day workout. And Oscar said, the only living human who'd be happy to be here today is Ernie Banks.
Nobody loved to play the game more. 1 ball and 1 strike. Rich Gale at the plate. Brenly out at second. Swing and a miss. 1 and 2.
In case you're just joining us, the home run that Rich Gale hit was really tattooed. That would have gone out of almost any place. A 400-footer into the bleachers in left center.
That is a strikeout. And it is the second of the game for Doug Bird. And there are 2 gone now, and it's up to Joe Morgan. Singled in the first, walked in the second. Morgan now with the opportunity to pick up Brenly.
When you look at Morgan, Jay, you can't help but think of the Big Red Machine, the great teams, 75 and 76.
He was so much a part of them.
Among the greatest teams of all time, and certainly among the greatest of our generation. I guess the Oakland A's, who won the 3 straight titles in the early 70s, would give them some competition. And a team that I think is very overlooked, the Baltimore Orioles of 69, 70, and 71. Marvelous ball club.
They really were.
You know why they're underrated, Jay? They lost 2 of those 3 World Series. They lost to the Miracle Mets in 69, lost a 7-game series to the Pirates in 71, beat the Reds in 70. Had they won those World Series, I think they'd rank as one of the great teams of all time in the minds of most baseball observers.
Good pitch from Bird. Caught the black on the inside. 2 balls and 1 strike to Morgan. 4th inning, Giants leading it 2-1. And that misses just inside.
You're not going to get Morgan to swing at very many bad pitches. He's singled and walked today, and he's among the all-time leaders. Moving up close to the guys like Mantle and Ott and Williams for base on balls, and really, he's the only guy that high up on the list who has not been a great home run hitter. As we mentioned, he had home run power in the prime of his career, but it was 25 a year type, not 45 or 50 type. So it's really a tribute to his eye that he's gotten that many walks.
And on the 3-1 pitch, he pops it up.
For a utility man who sat on the bench and took it all in, or a superstar. Lee Elia, never a regular. Hearts of seasons under Eddie Stanky with the White Sox, Leo DeRocha with the Cubs, so he played under some very volatile managers. Frank Robinson, of course, one of the all-time greats, goes into the Hall of Fame this August in Cooperstown. Here's what's coming up tomorrow on NBC Sports World. A veritable potpourri, Jennings.
Oh, indeed, indeed. Like that surfing from out there in Hawaii, the North Shore. The waves will be up tomorrow on Sports World.
Survival of the fittest. Who might the fittest be?
This will be Bill Buckner. Bottom of the 4th inning, Wrigley Field. The Giants leading it 2-1. Buckner rounded out back in the 1st. Rich Gale comes in, and it's the first baseman, Reggie Smith, unassisted.
Second time Buckner has gone out that way, Smith unassisted, but the first time it was good for an RBI as Will scored from third on the play.
Durham, who tripled into the gap in right center in the 1st and was stranded there as Moreland fouled out to end the 1st inning. Durham, the former Cardinal. Cardinals have certainly come up with a lot of talented young infielders. David Green, who was the key, of course, in the trade with Milwaukee in the Ted Simmons deal. He looks like a budding superstar, and they came up with a young man named Willie McGee, who's played so well for St. Louis. A boomer into right, and it is off the ivy. Picked up quickly by Clark, made a fine play, and almost nipped him at second. Boy, Clark did an excellent job. That ball got out there quickly, though, Bob. It's a double for Durham.
Line drive, not a fly ball, a real rifle shot off the bat of Durham, who is now tripled and doubled in 2 at-bats. Now watch Clark. Plays the carom perfectly. Actually barehanded it on the hop off the wall, and this throw is right on the mark, and Durham barely gets in there.
Durham looking out to Clark saying, hey! Keith Moreland fouled out in the 1st. When he had an opportunity to get Durham home. Similar situation here, although at that time Durham was at third. 2-1 Giants. Moreland takes the strike on the inside corner. Good fastball from Rich Gale. O'Malley, LeMaster, Morgan, and Smith on the infield for the Giants. Jim Wolford, Chili Davis, and Jack Clark left to right in the outfield, and Bob Friendly catching Rich Gale. Good stop. Friendly kept himself in front of that ball. Leon Durham with a triple and a double today. You see Moreland, 8 of 48. 1-1 pitch with 1 out. Set to come from Rich Gale. With Bob Costas, Jay Randolph here at Wrigley Field. Raining in Detroit, where Seattle was scheduled to play. They have not canceled that game yet. Joe Garagiola, Tony Kubek are there. We'll be checking in with him a bit later on. That's high.
Before the double by Durham, Gale had retired 8 men in a row, and snapping that streak.
2 balls and 1 strike to Keith Moreland. Started today with a 309 average and 39 RBIs. Moreland has hit 9 home runs. Into center field. Up high enough. Chili Davis now coming on as the wind held it. The runner tags, and Durham into third safely.
Not only did the wind hold that up, so it actually brought it back.
Davis, you'll see him coming in here as he had broken back on the ball and it hung up into the wind. Jay Johnstone, who lined out to Tom O'Malley, will be coming in as we look at the runner. Durham move on to third. O'Malley taking the throw.
Leon involved in a couple of close plays in this inning, but beating the throw each time just barely.
Johnstone, the former Philly.
Don't start clicking off his former club.
Yeah, I was
Angels, Yankees, forget about it, Jay.
A lot of stickers on his bag, I'll tell you.
Remember when he locked Tommy Lasorda in his hotel room and disconnected Tommy's phone so he couldn't call for help?
He enjoys life, this fella, you might say. That's outside, ball two.
Lasorda told Johnstone one day, hey, the guys are too tight. Loosen them up. Do anything you want. I won't object to anything you want. So Johnstone stuffed pillows into his uniform so he could look like Lasorda and went around doing a Lasorda imitation.
And that's outside, ball three.
And what is his thanks for all these laughs? Dodgers cut him loose.
Yep. What have you done for me lately? Two out, Durham down at third. 2-1 game, Giant Slade. And here it is. It's a strike as he was taking all the way.
Johnstone has had only one hit all season. His batting average is down around 150.
Rich Gale ready to come to Johnston. And it is speared by Joe Morgan. So, we have played through four. 2-1 Giants. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Jim Wolford leading it off for the Giants. They have a 2-1 lead here at Wrigley Field. And the first pitch is a curve that catches the outside corner. Joe Morgan spearing that line drive. Johnstone's hit the ball hard twice.
And nothing to show for it.
Wolford is singled and flied to right. And it's 1-1 to him. To the shortstop, Larry Boa, one gone.
That brings up Chili Davis, Jay, the switch-hitting outfielder from Kingston, Jamaica. One of several very fine young outfielders in the National League this year, but not on the All-Star ballot.
Well, it doesn't bother me at all. I am a rookie, and I guess most of the people don't know about me. I think the fans are the one that elect you into the All-Star ballot. So I'm not worried about it this year, but in the future years, hopefully I will be on it.
Well, and of course, you can write him in on your All-Star ballot if you like. Chili Davis. He has flied to left and grounded out. 2 balls the count to him from Doug Bird.
He's got company. You got rookies like Eddie Milner of the Reds, Willie McGee and David Green of the Cardinals, Bob Dernier of the Phillies. Not on the All-Star ballot. Nor is Alan Wiggins of San Diego or Johnny Ray of the Pirates. Steve Sachs, who got a lot of publicity because he was already penciled in to succeed Davey Lopes at second with the Dodgers, is one rookie who is on the ballot. But a guy like Kent Herbeck over in the American League just tearing it up for the Twins, not on the ballot.
Luzinski's not on the ballot. And the folks on the south side of Chicago are complaining about that.
See what happened with Luzinski a while ago? Very foggy night at Comiskey Park. He hits a home run into the center field bleachers. It's foggy enough to begin with. They set off the exploding scoreboard. It so beschrouded the field they had to hold the game up for 10 minutes while they cleared the fireworks away.
Strikeout number 3 for Doug Bird. Chili Davis goes down, and they're 2 out. Reggie Smith has flied to center and single. Reggie, who became a free agent, joined the Giants. Still a very crafty veteran and a good man to have on your club. Strike on the inside corner. Bird with a record in 3-5 on the year. They'd like to have one pitch back. The home run pitch in the second to Gale.
Sometimes when you work against the pitcher, you say to yourself, I just don't want to walk him, get it over the plate, and then bingo.
It's high and outside. It's 2 balls and 1 strike.
Time to hop on the soapbox here. It's another illustration of why a lot of people don't like the designated hitter. Gives you something to talk about. Can a pitcher help himself occasionally with a long ball like Gale did? Can he help himself by bunting? What happens if he gets on base? All those things are part of what makes baseball interesting. It is the thinking man's game. And
some of the folks sitting in on the baseball action at Wrigley Field. As it'll be Gary Woods to lead it off. 5th inning. 2-1, the Giants. Woods is struck out. Rich Gale and Doug Bird hooked up in a good one here. High chop that is foul. That could have been 2 if it was in play down the line. Wood started the day with a batting average of .286. In a bit of a slump, as you saw in the statistics. Looked like he wanted a bunt. Takes high. 1-1. Cubs got 1 in the first. A 2-run homer by Rich Gale in the second, and that's been all the scoring. Back him away.
Rich Gale is on a 4-game losing streak, Jay, and he was really pounded his last time out at Pittsburgh. Lasted only 2 innings, gave up 5 runs. His ERA coming into the game was close to 5, but he's looked pretty good since the first inning today.
He has the 2-1 pitch. A curve is high. It's 3-1. Junior Kennedy and Doug Bird do the follow.
One thing that Gale has had going against him, he's pitched behind on the count a lot today.
Fly ball into left. Misjudged momentarily by Wolford. He's back there now, and he makes the play.
I don't know if that would have made the fence on a day where there was not a wind blowing in, but it would have been close, and that was an example of what the wind can do here. The ball was hit very, very high in the air, thus the wind had a chance to catch it. The Cardinals keep on rolling, and they have gone through adversity to stay there. 2 catchers hurt, Porter and Tennis. Whitey Herzog, the magician.
They've missed her at second base. He's been out for 3 weeks.
Mike Ramsey, what a job he's done filling in.
Excellent job. Junior Kennedy is grounded out in the second.
Speaking of the Cardinals, we saw Harry Carey, now the Cubs announcer before the game, in his usual gregarious mood, and he saw me. Used to live in St. Louis till recently. Of course, Jay, you are the mayor of the town, as I understand. You own the town. And
not really.
Harry saw the 2 of us, said, the St. Louis Mafia. All we got to do is get Jack Buck over here, and we've got it complete.
Carey's quite a character. For the folks in the Middle West, certainly, folks that grew up listening to Harry and the Cardinals, it was part of their lives, really.
Over on the radio side today, when that ball left Rich Gale's bat, you think Harry said, might be, could be, it is a Rich Gale home run.
You're looking at the youngster O'Malley, the rookie at third. Now watch him as he sets himself now for the possible play. This young man up from the minors. Done a fine job, as we mentioned. 3 balls and 1 strike to Junior Kennedy. 1 out.
There's another illustration, Jay. Gale is behind on the count. Hasn't hurt him too much so far, but eventually it will if you keep doing that.
It certainly will.
Not only are you throwing a lot of pitches and thus tiring yourself out, but if you keep having to come in with fat strikes, you can't do that consistently against major league hitters and keep getting off the hook.
The payoff pitch, and it's a walk, and that is the first pass given by Rich Gale this afternoon. Well, there's 1 on and 1 out, and Doug Bird will have an opportunity to move Kennedy over into scoring position.
During the last inning, we were talking about the designated hitter. There is one thing, and it's an important thing, in favor of the DH. The only significant thing in favor of it that I see, it keeps a veteran, a popular veteran, a Kaline, a Yastrzemski, somebody like that, keeps them around for the fans to see, and that is a big plus.
A nice bunt. play is to first. The sacrifice is good as it goes 1-4.
On the other hand, without the DH, as we just saw, the strategy, so much more strategy. Here's Bird squaring around and doing his job, laying it down. As a matter of fact, watch Bird here. Doesn't quite know where he's going. Don't step on it. That's right, Doug. And Brenly, don't run Gale over. Joe Morgan says, I'll get out of the way before anything else happens.
Bump Wills singled, stole a base, went to third on an error, and scored in the first. Grounded out in the third. Bump with a chance to tie this game. Junior Kennedy out there at second with 2 gone. We're in the fifth at Wrigley Field. The Giants leading it 2-1. As a team, batting .242 coming into today's game. They hit 26 home runs. Out into left, Jim Wolford coming on, and he gets there, made the play in fair territory. That ball tailing away from him against the wind, and he had to keep moving to make the play. At the end of the fifth, Giants 2, Cubs 1.
The Giants prepare to bat in the sixth. They lead the Cubs 2-1, but I understand skies are clearing in Detroit. Let's go there and join Joe and Tony.
Well, here in Detroit, there has been some progress. The ground crew did take the tarp off the infield and turned it over, as ground crews do, to get rid of the water that had accumulated. You can see them standing by. They're going to try to play this game. The lights are turned on. The fans still have their umbrellas open. A slight drizzle here in Detroit. The pitchers still remain the same. Petrie for Detroit, Perry for Seattle. We are still waiting, but now let's go back to Bob Costas and Jay Randolph in Chicago.
Thank you, Joe G. And here in Chicago, Jack Clark leading it off in the sixth inning for the Giants, who have a 2-1 lead.
Say, our NBC crews are at 2 of the great remaining ballparks in the major leagues today. Wrigley Field and Tiger Stadium. I guess you can throw in Fenway Park and Comiskey Park here in Chicago, and that's just about all that's left.
Mighty 4. 3 balls and 1 strike to Clark. He struck out and walked.
You know, they may put lights in here someday. It may be inevitable. But I hope they still play a lot of day baseball.
I think they will, because this town, of course, over the years has supported the day games here. We've got a crowd of, I suppose 18 to 20,000 here on this Saturday afternoon.
I would think that Dallas Green's first priority is build a winning ball club, then think about the lights.
Into right field, Leon Durham is there. I guess ball by Clark.
I guess they could say, Jay, that once they build this team into a contender, if it happens, hey, we've got to put the lights in to give some of our fans who don't have the opportunity to come out in the day a chance to see us, and then perhaps play a limited schedule under the lights.
Chicago's a great, great town. And one of the things that I think needs to be on the drawing board here is a multi-purpose indoor facility for football and baseball.
And leave Wrigley, Jay? No.
Huh?
No, Jay.
I wouldn't leave Wrigley necessarily, but I really do feel that they need a facility. This city deserves a city this size. The fans here really deserve a facility like that. If they can get one in Minneapolis, if you can have one in Houston, if you can have one in Seattle, why shouldn't the great city of Chicago have one? It was 59 in Anchorage yesterday, in Alaska, and 45 here. They were playing baseball.
Jay, this is sacrilege. This is beautiful Wrigley Field, Jay.
Yeah, well, time marches on, Robert.
You want to play in a ballpark or in a space capsule, Randolph?
No, I want to play where people can enjoy themselves. Center field, O'Malley lines it out to Gary Woods.
I'm happy right here, Jay.
I know you are.
I've never enjoyed myself more.
I'm happy to be here, too. Yes, sir. Bob Brindley will bat with 2 out. Brindley on the day has grounded out and doubled.
Now here's my question, Jay. Why is it that when they build a new ballpark, for good reasons, more seats, different part of town perhaps, more accessible to the fans, more parking, all those things that you need in a modern facility, why does the playing surface have to look the same from park to park? Veterans Stadium, Riverfront, Three River Stadium, they all look and feel the same.
Yeah, the game has become very antiseptic. I agree with that, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Why can't you have the modern conveniences and yet have a playing field which has quirks and differences and character? You know, they build colonial homes with microwave ovens. Why can't you build a ballpark that feels like a ballpark and yet has modern conveniences?
I know some fellas that want to design a new stadium. I think I'll put you on their payroll. 2 balls and 1 strike. Little number out to Larry Boa. Comes on and the throw. Touchdown Brindley, and they're down 1-2-3. Here at Wrigley Field, it is still the Giants on top, 2-1.
The story at Wrigley, but the hour of decision has arrived in Detroit. Here's Joe and Tony with the story.
Well, here in Detroit, they thought they might get it started, but the word has just come down officially. This game has been postponed. The ground crew batten down the hatches, as it were, with the tarp here. They've covered it, and tomorrow they'll play a single game. So that's it. No baseball rained out. We'll try again next Saturday, Tony and I will. Amazing Reggie Jackson against the Angels against the White Sox, Cleveland against the Red Sox. Right now, let's go back to Chicago. So long, everybody, for Tony and Joe Garagiola.
All right, Joe, you and Tony take the rest of the day off. Find yourself a nice Polish restaurant there in Detroit. Here in Chicago, Larry Boa leading it off. The Cubs down 2-1. Sun shining brightly. Wrigley Field.
I would think with Joe there, he might overrule Tony, and they'll go for a little pasta at the Italian place, right?
Probably a good idea, too. Boa is out. And a play by the pitcher, Gale, actually, who deflected it, and Morgan came on to make the play. It looked like that ball might get up the middle, Bob.
I think you're exactly right, Jay. Had Gale not made some contact with it, and he does get a part of his glove on it to slow it up, it probably would have shot up the middle. But this gives Morgan a chance to field it, so score at 1-4-3, and Boa is out.
A throw by Morgan just nipped Boa, who is not as quick as he once was. With 1 out, Bill Buckner stands in. He's grounded out twice to first. He takes a strike from Rich Gale, who is moving along on a 3-hitter at this point in the proceedings. That's high and outside.
Buckner edged Keith Hernandez for that honor in 1980 after Hernandez had been the batting titleist in 1979.
Strike on the outside corner. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Buckner from Vallejo, California, led the league with 35 doubles. He was among the top 6 in 5 other categories last year. For the appeal down the third base, Eric Gregg says no, it's 2-2. We pause briefly for station identification. This is the NBC television. With Bob Costas, Jay Randolph, Wrigley Field, Chicago, 2-1. The Giants lead the Cubs. Bottom of the 6th inning. Buckner with 1 out, takes low, full count, 3-2.
About a week or 10 days ago, Billy Buck was involved in a confrontation with his manager, Lee Elia. Buckner, feeling opposing pitchers had been throwing at him too much, wanted his pitchers to protect him by retaliating, and said something about it to one of those pitchers, Dan Larson, and Elia felt that Buckner had overstepped his bounds. That's the manager's job, and he and Buckner had it out.
This to the right side. Morgan falls down.
Reggie Smith has made a couple of nice plays scooping up low throws at first base today. Now Morgan's slipping. The turf is not wet. There's been no rain here. Just slipped down, but he recovers. And actually, as you saw it from that angle, it was not as tough a scoop as it might have appeared from this angle for Reggie Smith, because the ball bounced up pretty nicely to him.
Here's a man who has solved Rich Gale today. 2 of the 3 hits belong to Durham, a triple in the first and a double in the fourth. He bats with 2 gone and a strike on the inside corner. The Giants have 6 hits. The Cubs have 3. Joe Morgan at second base, working with Reggie Smith and Johnny LeMaster and young Tom O'Malley on this infield for Frank Robinson's Giants. That's low. 1-1.
You look at this Leon Durham, and then you consider him in this ballpark, and you figure when he hits his stride, he's got to be a 30 home run a year man if he stays healthy. A lot of pitchers have been claiming that this year... more dugout pranks. Willie Hernandez is reeling in our cameraman, Jimmy Johnson.
We're ready to go to the 7th, and here again, Bob Costas.
Johnny LeMaster leads it off against Doug Bird. Pitchers who started are still in here. Bird and Gale, as a matter of fact, is the on-deck hitter. It's 2-1 Giants. They got 2 in the second on a double by O'Malley and a homer by Gale. LeMaster lifts one that will probably get out of play, and it does. Cubs had taken a brief 1-0 lead on a single by Bump Wills, a stolen base plus a throwing error, which sent Wills around to third, and he scored on a ground out by Buckner.
This fellow LeMaster, they call him Bones. He enjoyed his finest big league season in '81. Done a lot of work with Harry Walker.
0-2 pitch. LeMaster's the kind of hitter who would benefit from the Walker theories. Put the ball in play, go to the opposite field. He has very little power, so the best idea is to fall on the ground and hit it where they ain't. As Willie Keeler might advise, of course you got to hit it first, which he didn't. Strike 3. The 4th strikeout for Bird. At the end of this half inning, it'll be time for our weekly 7th inning stretch feature. And this week, the focus is on Orlando Cepeda.
The man they call Cha-Cha. What great years he had for the Cardinals, 1967 and 68.
Some big campaigns for the Giants before that, and a couple of good years for the Braves afterward. Then finished up as a DH in the American League with the Red Sox. The count to Gale. 0-2. Threw him a breaking ball that time. Bird is not playing around with Gale. He's saying to himself that this big fella hadn't taken me downtown, I'd be working on the 1-0 shutout now. So Gale has homered and then struck out twice. Joe Morgan, the hitter, he's 1 for 2 with a walk. Joe singled in the first, drew a walk in the second, and then popped out on the 4th. Strike 1 call. Bird has been able to get the breaking pitches over pretty consistently today. Bird has done a little bit of everything in his pitching career, short and long relief. Now as a starter, this one is blooped back a short. Bo is going back, tough play, drops in, bloop single.
That is the first hit since the 4th inning when Brindley led off with a double.
Bird had retired 10 men in a row before that hit by Morgan. Joe's second safety of the afternoon. Jim Wolford is 1 for 3. The Mariners and the Tigers were rained out in Detroit, and thus this is the only game right now in the major leagues. Milwaukee is at Oakland, but that starts later this afternoon. So this is the only action going right now. hits this one high but foul down the left side. A man who uttered the immortal line some years back, 90% of this game is half mental. Keep that in mind, Jay.
Only half?
Johnstone coming in. That's the third out. No runs, a hit. Morgan is left. At the end of 6.5, the Giants still lead the Cubs 2-1. And now here's another edition of the 7th inning stretch.
Old Spice presents the 7th inning stretch, brought to you by new Old Spice antiperspirant and original Old Spice deodorant. They both work overtime.
Orlando Cepeda uncorked his wide-lunging swing and rocketed baseballs deep into the stands. His father was the greatest hitter ever seen in the tough Caribbean summer leagues, and Orlando learned to hit in Puerto Rico. In 1958, Orlando was Rookie of the Year in his debut season with the San Francisco Giants. Cepeda was always a serious contender in the home run derby, clouting 46 to lead the league 3 years later. When the Baby Bull was traded to St. Louis, he responded with a sturdy MVP season, and the Cardinals were champs in 1967. Toward the end of his career, his batting average was restricted by a gimpy knee, but he always hit with the strength of 2 men, as Orlando Cepeda carried a proud family tradition into the big leagues.
Now, Old Spice.
Harry Caray leading the 7th inning song fest, which he began over at Comiskey Park here in Chicago. And he's taken it to Wrigley Field now that he's the announcer with the Cubs. Enormously popular man. He walks down the street, the cabbies stick their heads out the windows. Harry, Harry, how you doing? Gets as many requests around the ballpark for autographs as the players do. Former voice of the Cardinals and the White Sox, now with the Cubs, Harry Caray. Keith Moreland leads it off in the last half of the 7th, with the Cubbies trailing at 2-1. And Gary Lavelle, who, as you see, has pitched very well of late, is warming up in the Giant bullpen just in case Gale encounters trouble. Moreland was looking to tie it with that swing, 1-1. Changeup. Looped into right field. It'll drop in front of Jack Clark for a leadoff single. The batter is Jay Johnstone, who's hit the ball on the nose twice, but has nothing to show for it. He lined to third and to second. Has been looking for some kind of consistent punch in left field. Steve Henderson has slumped a bit. Bobby Molinaro has been tried at times. Here's Johnstone trying to sack, but instead he pops the bunt up and Smith makes the catch. No advance. Might have been trying to tell Johnstone or to tell the third base coach that he didn't get the sign and hold everything. It's the only thing I can assume there, with Moreland waving his arms in the air. But Johnstone went ahead with the sacrifice attempt and popped it up. Now the hitter is Gary Woods. Woods struck out swinging and flied to left. Last half of the 7th, it's 2-1 Giants, and it's been that way since the top of the 2nd. Woods trying to go the opposite way, fouls it off. Bill Campbell, former former Twin and Red Sox, warms up in the Cub bullpen. They took a flyer on him as a free agent. Second time in his career that he has cashed in on the free agent route.
He's really worked a lot in recent days.
Of course, he had those brilliant seasons with the Twins in the mid-70s, and one year where he saved 31 after coming over to the Red Sox, but then shoulder problems got to him the past several seasons. Breaking ball misses. So Dallas Green took a chance on Bill Campbell, and Campbell has done a good job out of the Cub bullpen. A ball and a strike to Gary Woods. Moreland the runner at first. One out last half of the seventh. Oh, they got him. They pick him off. They had him leaning. No chance to get back.
Now we'll look at it again. He was going the wrong way and in no man's land out there. And the inability to bunt Moreland over and then Moreland getting picked off. And the Cubs missing an opportunity here late in this game.
Keith Moreland makes his way into the dugout, which can be an awfully quiet place when a player comes back after making a mistake like that. A ball and 2 strikes to Gary Woods now with 2 outs and the bases empty. Stays alive. Ilya was a coach, third base coach at Philadelphia when Dallas Green was the manager there. Green, when he became GM, brought him over here to handle his ball club. Fouled back again by Gary Woods.
The Giants have got a hurler up and throwing down the right side. He's one of the stalwarts, of course, for the San Francisco Giants, Gary Lavelle. Frank Robinson, he'll be going into the Hall of Fame at Cooperstown this summer.
Woods just keeps hanging in there. Fouls the changeup by Gale off. You know, people forget about a player like Frank Robinson with all the achievements, and there's one of them. MVPs in both leagues, Triple Crown in '66, the 586 career homers. But this guy was both a superstar in terms of talent and also a scrapper. He scrapped like a .226 hitter. He took the extra base. He was hit by pitched balls almost 200 times. Remember how he used to lean out over the plate, the elbow almost in the strike zone? He'd dive for balls in the outfield. He played all out.
He'd do anything to play and to get the job done. He was a complete player.
2-2 with 2 out. Base hit.
Well, the inability to move the runner along looms large after that one. Had the inning broken a little differently, had the sacrifice been successful, they might well have had the tying run home. Had Moreland not been picked off, they'd at least have first and second with 1 out. Instead, a runner at first with 2 gone, and the light-hitting Junior Kennedy steps in. Kennedy 0 for 1 plus a walk. Bird is in the on-deck circle, but you'd have to believe that if Kennedy reaches, they'd pinch hit for Bird. He won't reach, barring an error. LeMaster throws out. No runs, 2 hits, 1 man is left. We've gone through 7 at beautiful Wrigley Field in Chicago, and the Giants cling to that 2-1 lead. Back at Wrigley Field, top half of the 8th inning, Chili Davis led the frame off, and on the first pitch tried to drag bunt, but Doug Bird fielded it and threw him out, so we have 1 away. Bird undoubtedly working his last inning as he's due to lead off the last half of the 8th inning. And Lee Elia will have somebody inserted as a pinch hitter. Reggie Smith. 1 for 3, had a single in the 3rd. That's sandwiched in between a fly out and ground out. Only 1 switch hitter in Major League history has hit more home runs than Reggie Smith. You would know who that would be, wouldn't you, Jay? Mickey Mantle?
You got it.
Next Saturday, catch up on the latest news. Major League Baseball, an inside look. And you'll see the California Angels with Reggie Jackson, the new look Chicago White Sox, or you'll see Cleveland. They've won 11 in a row at this point. They'll go against Rice, Yaz, Evans, and the Red Sox. Check your local listings for the game in your area next Saturday at 2 Eastern Time, right here, the home of great baseball, NBC Sports.
2-0 is the count to Reggie Smith, the Giants cleanup batter. Jack Clark is on deck. Strike one call. There's a look at Clark. Pitching has cooled him off a bit today. Smith lost one to center field. The wind is bringing this in, and Woods is right with it. 2 down. So Jack Clark bats with the bases empty and 2 out. Struck out, walked, and flied to right. And it looks like that'll be the case for a second time. Leon Durham, the wind gave him a little bit of a problem. It was taking it away from him, but Leon stayed with it. It's a 1-2-3 eighth inning for the Giants. The Cubs have 2 more chances left, trailing it 2-1.
We are in our perch above Wrigley Field, and our good friend Mr. Steve Horn from St. Louis there handles our statistics.
Steve Night Train Horn.
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed. Well, we're going into the bottom of the 8th inning here in a 2-1 game. Jay Randolph and Bob Costas with you. And Scott Thompson is the first pitch hitter in this game.
So Doug Bird worked 8 innings. And except for the gopher ball he threw to Rich Gale, he was pretty close to perfect.
So he had a fine outing.
Thompson in limited duty is hitting .333. There was once a time when they thought that Scott Thompson, as Campbell continues to throw in the bullpen to the Cubs, they thought that Scott Thompson would become a big league star. He has never really emerged that way. Kind of a pinch hitter and occasional outfielder for them. He was the guy who hit the bounding ball in the 2nd inning earlier this week here at Wrigley Field, but was scored a base hit, the only hit yielded in that game by Juan Eichelberger of the Padres. Tim Flannery, the second baseman, probably could have handled it, and maybe had it happen in the 7th or 8th inning, it would have been ruled an error. In the 2nd inning, it went for a base hit, spoiling the no-hit bid. Of course, you can't really say that had it been scored an error, the guy would have pitched a no-hitter, because the pressures are so much different, the situation is different when you are working on the no-hitter.
This telecast presented by authority of Major League Baseball. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball.
2-1 pitch to Thompson, leading off the 8th, and he's ahead of the count, 3-1.
Thompson is from Grove City, Pennsylvania.
Is swirling around toward right now instead of blowing straight in. This might drop for a base hit into left center. Wolford can't get there. Then he has trouble cutting it off. Here's the throw from Davis. He's out. Eric Gregg came over from third base to be on top of the play at second. And even though Thompson was out, that was a good play to try and get in scoring position. He made Chili Davis make the play, and that's all you can ask.
Here's why it was a good play. He went with the pitch, drove it into the power alley. Wolford came over, it got by him, and when Thompson saw that, he made the go, and he was out. A good call as Gregg came over to make the play. You see it again now. As he saw the ball get by Wolford, but Chili Davis, a fine throw, nips him there.
Joe Morgan applying the tag. So Davis saves Wolford from some embarrassment.
Here's another view, the throw from Chili Davis and the tag. You see Eric Gregg there on the right of your screen, the third base umpire hustling over to make the play.
More demonstrative umps. Very often when they play the rock tunes or the organ music between innings, Eric will do a little disco for you out there. That's a lot to shake for Eric Gregg.
He's lost a lot of weight, too, in the last year. Went on a very strenuous diet and physical fitness program with the Phillies. He lives in Philadelphia. He's a wonderful guy, one of the very fine, talented young umpires in the National League.
This is what Gale has done so far.
Well, the Cubs have been playing in bad luck. In the last inning, they had a couple of hits. They had a runner thrown out, and a sacrifice bunt try popped up as you get a good look at Eric Gray. And here, Thompson, trying to get the extra base, didn't make it.
2-1 now, the count to Bump Wills as he fouls it off. Bump is 1 for 3. A first inning single was his base hit. Lee Illia stakes out that spot in the corner of the dugout and hardly budges.
Some managers are very superstitious about where they stand and where they watch a game from, where the signs are picked up.
Now Wills shoots one into right center field. It's a base hit. Clark gets over to cut it off and holds him to a single. Throw got by, but O'Malley was there. Turn around and got right-handed against him. Jay?
Lavelle is 3-2 on the year at 2.90 earned run average, making his 20th appearance. He's pitched 31 innings, given up 26 hits and 12 runs. He has given up 8 walks and 25 strikeouts, a very good strikeout-to-walk ratio, 2 saves.
Now with Wills, who has stolen a base already today, his 13th steal of the season at first, and Boa, a good bat handler at the plate, you got to figure something might be on here. Not going, ball 1. Bill Buckner is on deck. Scott Thompson led the inning with a pinch single, out trying to stretch it. Wills followed with a single. Robinson removed Gale. Lavelle faces Boa. Wills back easy. Another move over. 1-0 is the count to Boa. Down the right side, it's going to get out of play. New first baseman in the game. Dave Bergman is in the game playing first base, replacing Reggie Smith for the Giants. Bergman kind of slipped in incognito without announcing. Keep them within a run here. No inside, 3-1. Campbell is one of a long line of stars who have departed Minnesota by the free agent route. Here's Buckner with a nice backhand play. Retires O'Malley unassisted. So many players either have left Calvin Griffith as free agents or traded just before they became free agents. Here's a story of the Cubs' woes since their last pennant back in '45. Only 3 times in second, 5 in third, 2 in fourth, 5th or lower 23 times, and the basement in the league or division since '69, 3 times. Friendly skies one to center. Easy play for Gary Woods. 2 gone. Campbell needs to retire LeMaster to get credit, at least in his mind, for a hold. They don't keep that statistic officially, but a lot of managers and general managers do.
Sure they do.
Big breaking ball, outside ball 1. The idea being you come in when we're behind, don't get us any further behind. Give us a chance to rally and catch up. Campbell will have accomplished that if, when he leaves the mound, it's still 2-1. Same pitch, same result, 2-0.
Milwaukee at Oakland, they are underway, and Milwaukee has scored 1 to start that game. Here's that sweeping curveball. We talked about it a moment ago.
Back live and a call, strike 1. Well, the Brewers changing managers this week. Buck Rogers out, Coach Harvey Keene in on an interim basis, they say. The name of our broadcasting buddy Sal Bando has come up as the possible manager for next year. This one's sent down the line and right, and it's a fair ball. knocking around in the corner. It'll be at least a double for LeMaster. He'll stop at second.
Ball was played by Leon Durham about as well as he could. It ricocheted first off the side of the wall and then to the back wall down there.
I am sure that Frank Robinson would like an insurance run, but not enough to remove Gary Lavelle for a pinch hitter here. So Lavelle bats for himself. All the Giant offense has been generated today from the pitcher's spot. A 2-run homer by Rich Gale in the second inning, and that's it. 2-1 Frisco.
And it was O'Malley who doubled to start the second, who scored in front of Gale, and that is the difference in this game.
Cubs have had their chances the past couple of innings, and they have squandered them.
Catcher Moreland moving the center fielder Woods. There's a big gap in left center.
Strike one call. Jay, how do you view this? If you were Frank Robinson, would you be letting Lavelle hit here, or would you trust somebody else? A Brining or a Minton or somebody like that out of the bullpen and try and get this extra run?
I'd do what Robinson's doing because he trusts Lavelle to get the Cubs in the ninth.
And the big breaking pitch, and that's strike two. Taking a look at who the Cubs have coming up, Buckner and Durham are both left-handed hitters. The breaking ball from Campbell for a strike on the replay. So the first two hitters, Buckner and Durham, each dangerous, each a lefty. That's why he wants Lavelle in there.
Exactly.
Lavelle fans weakly. Campbell departs, no runs, a hit, a man left in the top half of the ninth for the Giants. Part of the Cub order coming up. Last crack at it, 2-1 after 8.5.
Bowling's my game.
Gutter ball, gutter ball. How are you going to score there?
Come on, 3 strikes and you're out.
We just won another round of light beer from Miller.
Yeah, light sure tastes great.
Let's Philly! Taste great!
Wait a minute. There it is, down there. Take your time.
8 ball in the pocket.
Bubba, this ball doesn't have any holes in it. Yeah, it does.
The score's all even.
Glass frame. Who's up?
Rodney.
Rodney! Gotta be a mistake.
Hey, you kids, it's a piece of cake. All we need is one pin, Rodney.
Like beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
I didn't get my turn yet. I'm gonna break this time.
You men. There's only one reason you wear cologne. Only one reason. Women. Hey, that's okay. Why do you think we use perfume? But as long as you're going to do it, you might as well do it right. Use this cologne, English leather, because English leather drives women crazy. Now, can you think of a better reason to wear a cologne? English leather drives women crazy.
The world's best travel to Hawaii in search of the perfect wave.
And America's top women gymnasts compete for the Emerald Cup
Plus, the first in our Survival of the Fittest series from New Zealand.
on NBC Sports World tomorrow.
Next week, our NBC cameras are back here in Chicago, but on the other side of town. White Sox against the Angels, the leaders in the American League West. That's an important ball game, and I'll be at Fenway as the Tribe, red hot now with 11 straight wins, goes against the Bo Sox, who at the start of the day today were just a half game back of the Tigers in that race. Where will you be this weekend, Jay?
The Jack Nicklaus Golf Center, Kings Island, Ohio. The LPGA Championship on NBC. Donna Capone defending her title. Nancy Lopez will be there. Beth Daniel, Kathy Whitworth. A great weekend of golf. We're looking forward to it.
Pitch to Buckner to lead off. The ninth is on the outside corner. Called strike one. Buckner, Durham, and then Moreland. Lavelle trying to save it for Gale. If it stays this way, Doug Bird would be the tough luck loser. That's low. Lee Elia with the lineup on the wall behind him. Drop. It does. Wolford couldn't get to So again, the Cubs make noise. Let's see if they can finally cash in.
It'll be interesting to see what the strategy is. Two men are quickly warming up for Frank Robinson's San Francisco Giants. Down the line and right, Greg Mitten on the left, Al Holland on the right.
Holland just off the disabled list. When they activated him, they sent Dan Schatzeder down. Now up comes Durham. Sacrifice situation? Yes, indeed. Squares, takes a strike. You have to figure that Durham has not had much practice bunting.
Durham looked back at home plate umpire Bob Engel. He thought that ball was way high. Well, they might switch off, or he might try to slap it by the young third baseman O'Malley.
He wants to bunt. He pops it up. Brenly makes the play. That is the second consecutive inning in which the Cubs have botched an attempted sacrifice. And now, here comes Robinson with the right-handed hitter Moreland coming up. Robinson wants Minton.
John Stone, who had hit the ball hard twice, was asked to bunt and popped it up in the seventh. And Durham, who had doubled and tripled, was asked to bunt here in the ninth and popped it up right there to Bob Brenly.
That's what being a fan is all about. Sitting in the stands and you say to the fella next to you as you throw down some peanuts and Cracker Jacks, hey pal, what would you have done?
Yeah, I can hear some folks saying now, why in the world do you have Durham bunting after he's hit a double and a triple today and flied out the left and looks so good in there?
And you have to add the factor that he is not an experienced bunter. How often is your cleanup man called upon to bunt? That's the man on the hot seat. We can sit and speculate. He's got to answer for it.
Lost 5 in a row, have the Cubs.
Here's an interesting thing. The guy on the mound, Greg Minton, had a long streak in which he did not allow a home run. Stretched over a couple of seasons. 269 in the third innings. Then he allowed 3 home runs in his next 10 innings of work. John Stearns snapped the string, then Rusty Staub homered off him, and Gary Matthews of the Phillies got it.
Minton is 3-3 and has a 1.94 ERA. And he is a very, very sharp pitcher when he's got that breaking ball going.
As he gets ready, let's take a look at some of the exploits today around the halls of ivy at Wrigley Field. Here's Jack Clark. The vines hold it up just a little bit. Can't find it. That turned into a Leon Durham triple. Jay Johnstone coming over from the Dodgers. Getting familiar with the idiosyncrasies of Wrigley. Hello, Jay. Right into the ivy. Here's Johnstone again. Now watch Clark. This was a fine play that Clark made on a ball off the wall by Durham. Almost got him at second base.
Little fun in the flora out there in the outfield.
All right, Keith Moreland popped out, flied out, and singled. There's Bill Campbell in the dugout. One out, man aboard. Ball one. Jay Johnstone is on deck. After that, if they get that far, it would be Gary Woods. If they got to Woods, you'd have a possibility of a pinch hitter, since Woods is a right-handed batter. Of course, Robinson has the left-hander, Al Holland, getting ready down there, too. Moreland takes low again, 2-0. Cubs got a run in the first. The Giants got 2 on the Rich Gale homer, the first of his career in the top half of the second. Since then, we've had a few threats, but no scoring. 2-1 Giants, last half of the ninth. The count to Moreland.
Minton originally came up with San Francisco in the '75 season. Started his professional career back in Phillies in 1970. He's been around a while.
Unless I miss my guess completely, this is your obvious take situation. And it's a strike. impression was that Reggie Smith cut on a 3-0 pitch earlier in the ballgame, and it might have taken the Giants out of a big inning. He popped it up. 3-1 pitch. The count is full. Now do you run Buckner with 1 out?
I don't think so, but let's watch. A 1-run ball game. Payoff pitch to Keith Moreland. Runner is not going. Still a full count. Minton enjoyed a remarkable season, setting a club saves record. 21 last year. Games of the Giants in one of the club's better swaps. Catcher Fran Healy to Kansas City back in '70. Fella grew up in San Diego. Here it is again. This time Buckner is going. The ball is hit into center field. Can Chili Davis run it down? He can, and Buckner will have to go back. Jay Johnstone is the Cubs' last hope. Johnstone has hit the ball hard twice. He lined the third in the second and lined the second in the fourth, and then was asked to advance the runner via the bunt and popped up. He is long overdue. Not just today, but for the year. He has 1 base hit for the whole season in 17 at-bats between L.A. and Chicago. That's a ball. They are perched out on the housetops across the way, staring in intently. 2 outs, bottom of the 9th. A little tap is foul. Gary Woods would be next. He singled back in the 7th. Jay Johnstone, no stranger to pressure situations. He's made his living primarily as a pinch hitter the past several years with the Dodgers. It's a little tap, could be a tough play. Let's see if Minton can handle it. He got him, and the ball game is over. Minton to Bergman to retire Johnstone. The Cubs have lost 6 in a row. The Giants have taken the first 2 of this series. And the final here, 2-1. Some fine pitching here this afternoon at Wrigley Field as the Giants win it over the Cubs. We'll be back with more right after these messages. The Major League Baseball Game of the Week has been brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer, who invite you to test drive the 1982 Ford cars and trucks. By Light Beer from Miller, everything you always wanted in a beer and less. By Krylon, the smooth, fast, professional finish. And by Honda Motorcycles. Honda, follow the leader. We'll be back at Wrigley in a minute.
Presentation of NBC Sports, the leader in innovative sports television.